Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. People who got fired on the first day of the job. What happened? I kind of inadvertently got a guy fired on his first day. I was working at a factory job. I had been there a couple years at this point. They had just hired a new batch of people. One of the people they just hired, let's call him Ed, I knew from school. He was a strange dude. He always had an off-putting smile on his face, like he just farted and is waiting for you to smell it. He also thought being friendly is punching your arm, which was always annoying to me. I think he wanted to be friends in school, but it just didn't really happen. We were cordial when we met in public, though. Anyway, Ed gets hired. He sees me and come over to talk for a bit. When he walks off, my supervisor pulls me to the side and says, "If that guy messes with you, let me know." Okay, weird, right? Later that day, he is being trained at a machine behind me. We were running different parts and mine runs slower. He decides that means I suck or something. He walks up behind me, slaps the back of my head hard enough my hat goes flying off, and yells, "Hurry up, slowpoke!" My job was working with torches, so needless to say, that peed me off. At lunchtime, I pulled the supervisor to the side and let him know what happened and that it was dangerous since I am handling dangerous equipment. He tells me he will take care of it. I come back from lunch and Ed is being escorted out of the building. Come to find out, Ed thought it would be cool to brag to my supervisor that he used to kick my A in high school all the time. As far as I knew, we were cool. I had no idea that he told them anything of the sort because it didn't effing happen. So when I complained, he was insta-fired. They were protecting me from my high school bully that I didn't even know existed. Not me, but happened when I was working at McDonald's. New guy came in and when he saw that we were trashing patties if they had been sitting too long, he ate one. Then he just started eating them from the supply. Dude must have inhaled 10 to 12 patties over a couple hours after repeatedly being told to stop. Eventually, he started making himself a burger with the buns and eating it as well. Got fired first day on the job. I'm still convinced he had no real plans of working and just wanted to see how many free burgers he could eat before getting canned. Not me, but a kid where I used to work was chosen the day he started for a random drug test. They did these once every few months. He said no problem, clocked out, and never returned. I am from Michigan, and this was about 4 to 5 years ago at a small automotive factory. They make foam for various internal car parts. They do drug tests upon hiring. I'm guessing that kid passed initially. The random drug testing was done very sporadically. The first 1.5 years I worked there, they didn't do it at all. When they started back up, they did it once a month for several months, switched it to once every 3 months, stopped again for maybe 6 months, then one more round before stopping until I left, which was another 6 to 8 months. The owner also had a soft spot for anyone's sob story, so he rehired previously fired employees all the time. One kid was literally on his 4th go there. Other times he knew people were high/drunk, so he just asked them to leave, get sober, and come back when they were clean. He also bailed several employees out of jail for drug-related incidents. That place was pretty effed. I'm glad I left. I'm a developer. We hired a guy who did an amazing interview. He really seemed to know his stuff and was clearly very intelligent and capable. On his first day, he saw some old code in an S legacy app which wasn't great and he went effing ape-s. Like, began ranting at his desk, then stood up from his desk and started shouting at his screen, then started verbally abusing the developer he thought had written the code. He hadn't. The other developer just sat and took the abuse calmly and tried to explain it wasn't his code, and anyway, we knew it was old and poorly written, but there was no plan for the team to rebuild it, etc. But it was futile and he barely got a word in with the other guy just shouting him down in an endless tirade. He had a full meltdown and was beyond civilized conversation. Project manager had to intervene and have an emergency meeting with the MD and the developer. They mutually agreed he wasn't right for the company. The guy eventually said that he had Asperger's and had left many jobs for the same reason. Went in for my first day and the executives are apparently at the building talking to my manager who was going to get me going. Found out within 5 minutes the company got bought out and we were all fired. Went through drug tests and interviews for nothing. I got touched in the balls for nothing. F that place. Apparently people want to know more. So my cousin and my uncle worked there, him as customer service / inside sales, which was the position I was going for. My uncle, a driver. I went in all smiles, saying hi to my uncle and cousin, casually walking into an awkward silence. Found out what was happening, and bam, told to go home. Since I didn't work there for at least a week or month, I didn't figure I qualified for severance pay. The touching of the balls was to check for hernias. I was 16 and landed my first job in a paint store mixing custom colors for customers. On my first day, I mixed a requested color, following the paint manufacturer's directions exactly. But the result turned out wrong because the formula had changed and my employer had not updated his store's formula specifications. So when the customer complained about the color variant, the boss fired me in front of everyone, even though I had done the job correctly. It was humiliating and left a lasting negative impression as to what's involved in joining the workplace. I was a hostess at Applebee's for a day once. I was bussing a table and dropped a cup and whispered S. They never even told me that they fired me. I found out by going into work the next day to see me not on the schedule. I tried talking to managers and everything. No one would tell me that I was fired. It was like a bad breakup with mind games, and eventually I had to force myself into the GM's office and made him explain to me what was going on. Shadiest S ever. I almost got fired at Subway for putting too many olives on subs. For the record, it was 6 olives per foot long and 3 per 6 inch. Anyone knows how ridiculously stingy that is. Also, if they wanted extra olives, they had to pay, and you were allowed to give double that, and that's it. I pleaded to keep my job and only followed the olive rule when the manager was around though. I piled them high for customers I liked. I should say it was the owner, since it's a franchise, not the manager who was strict about this. The manager had to enforce the rules, but even she bent them. The store actually switched owners while I was working there, and the second one was much more lenient, thank God, and let us put a reasonable amount of olives on. I got a job as a waiter at an Australian-themed steakhouse. No, not that one. They had me buy construction boots as part of their uniform and a pair of black shorts, totaling $50. I had never worked as a waiter before, so they had me shadow one of their waitresses. I followed her for drink orders at 2 tables, and then she told the boss it wasn't going to work out. No idea what happened, and that was my last $50. In retrospect, that place just screams, "You don't want to work here," but I'm still mad about it a decade and a half later. I got hired as an independent contractor for some over-the-phone tech work. Hours were 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, that's perfect. I go in and get acquainted, start taking calls, and hours go by. I'm wondering when I get lunch. Newsflash, no lunch, no breaks. Independent contractor or not, pretty sure here in the US, you gotta give people some breaks and a lunch at some point in a 10-hour shift. Some kinda law about that, I feel sure. So I tell my new boss, look, I'm starving. I'm going to get something to eat. I'll be back in an hour. He said, "If you leave, don't bother coming back." So I left and never went back. This was about 10 years ago, and not mine, but a homeboy of mine got an awesome job at a tech company out here in Cali. We're talking B+ to A- level job with big name company not more than 6 months out of college. His resume was outstanding, his interviews were amazing, and he impressed all of the directors at the handshake party. After spending a full day literally there, he was given the offer letter. He got everything he wanted. He was given the 5 p.m. HR paperwork treatment, shown his future office, introduced to the office pool, and was formally announced through company email. He shook hands for the last time around 8 p.m. and walked out the front door to his car. My friend couldn't contain his excitement, and he did a burnout in the parking lot as he was leaving. He figured the parking lot was empty and no one would notice. He got a call the next morning. "Based upon your reckless actions last night in the parking lot, we've decided to terminate our working relationship." More information, so here goes. "This is probably fake, but I enjoyed it. Good on you, sir. 100% real, unfortunately." Couldn't he have called and explained? "I'm sorry, I was in complete disbelief at my luck and a little bit tired from the event of that day. Is there any way you can forgive me for my excitement and I will show you why you hired me?" Don't tell me he didn't try. He must have a connection in the company or an F-ton of charisma to get that far that fast. Great question. He did. He apologized profusely. He said it was youthful energy and he was just tremendously excited to be working there, and even offered to come down in person with an apology letter and apologize in person. They were sympathetic, and from what he tells me, they took his request to the powers that be, but in the end, they still said no. A smoky long 10-second burnout, or a Honda Civic e-brake 3-second tire squeal peel out? I asked. Quote, "Once I got over the last speed bump, it was a 6-second burnout, followed by gunning it out of the parking lot, hard turn to the right, and then speeding like F down the street to the freeway." You wanna let us in on what the amazing stuff was? The premium package. Low 6 figures to start, plus massive stock opportunities, vacation plus sick time, medical/dental/vision, 401k plus matching, a bunch of corporate benefits, full retirement package after 25 years, etc. Where did he end up? He ended up at a communications company a few weeks later. Still got a good job, but nowhere near the kind of things they were offering him. Worked at a pita pit in college for a day. About halfway through my first shift, the manager asks if I have a car. I said yes, why? He said I had to go get it and deliver for him till close because the driver he was into called out because she was too hungover. She said this on speaker in front of like half the people waiting in line and everyone else who was working. If I didn't, he said I was fired. He also told me I had to pay for my own gas and give all my tips to him since I was still making $8.20 an hour instead of the $4.50 the drivers made plus tips. He handed me 7 bags and a list of MapQuest directions to them. 3 of the deliveries 10 plus miles away. Furthest being 17 miles in the middle of effing nowhere, Pennsylvania, that just screamed deliverance R scene. Boss called me not even 15 minutes later screaming at me for not making all the deliveries yet and said that once I came back and gave him his tips, I was fired. With 5 deliveries left to go, I said F it and went to my friend's place with the rest of the food. F that manager. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.